to keep rolling season long. Get ready for the season. Visit St. Albert's Source for Sports today.
Hi, it's McKenna, the Kidney Foundation's Kid Ambassador, with a list of cars you can donate. Red cars, blue cars, old cars, new cars, big cars, small cars, nearly all cars, imports, exports, cars of all sorts, fast cars, slow cars, doesn't go cars, cars and trucks and vans and jeeps, fancy cars and rusty jeeps.
Get a tax receipt for fair market value of your donation. Visit kidneycard.ca and turn your vehicle
into a life-saving machine.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. A top safety pick for unmatched peace of mind. Visit Subaru.ca.
Want your advertising to drive real results? On Sports 1440, you're talking to fans who take action.
Hi, my name is Darren Arsenault. I own Alberta Custom Concrete. I've actually only been advertising on the radio the last probably year and a half. It's really kind of incredible how people connect when you're talking on the radio.
And when the message hits, the response is immediate.
Well, 1440 was amazing to go to. We weren't expecting the response quite as suddenly as it was, but we literally had guys that came in and said, hey, you know, we just heard you on 1440 and we want to see about getting our garage redone.
That's the kind of audience you reach on Sports 1440.
Just working with a marketing team like they have here at Stingray. And for us, it's just been invaluable.
Visit sports1440.ca to learn more about advertising with Stingray Radio.
Mother's Day is a moment to slow down and savor something made with love. At Farmhouse Bakery, everything is baked from scratch with real ingredients. Fresh, homemade goodness you won't find sitting on a shelf the next day. This year, treat Mom to something truly special, from beautiful cupcake bouquets to handcrafted cakes made to celebrate her in the sweetest way. And whether you're planning ahead or stopping in, you'll always find something made just right for Mom. Farmhouse Bakery, next to Dairy Queen, Camrose.
The Lawnmower Hospital. Contractors, spring cleanup is coming. It's time to get your lawnmowers, aerators, power rakes, lawn vacs, and more serviced at the Lawnmower Hospital. Hey, the longer you wait, the longer you'll have to wait in line later. Their service department gets crazy busy as the season rolls on, so get in now while it's calm. For quick service on top brands like Bluebird, Ryan Turf, Husqvarna, and more, check out lawnmowerhosp.com. The Lawnmower Hospital.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Always helps to have the microphone to talk into. Good morning, everybody. Paul Sir here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing lovely, Paul. I'm excited to talk some NBA playoff basketball.
And we have a lot to talk about. And in the studio with us today is the host of the Muneeb Khan Show, Muneeb Khan himself. Welcome, Muneeb. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Cannot wait. One of the best times of the year. NBA playoffs are just starting. We just had the play-in games happen, which, okay, some of them very good. Last two yesterday, kind of duds.
It was like, we'll get to that in a second because you're right. They were. But there was, the first four were actually pretty good.
Very good.
Last two, you're right. They weren't. 833-401-1440 is our text line. 833-401-1440. If you have comments, questions, thoughts about what you think is going to be happening during the NBA playoffs that are ready to get rolling at 11 a.m. this morning with Canada's own Toronto Raptors, please send your thoughts and questions in to us. Okay, let's talk about the play-in games right off the bat. Charlotte won ugly in game one, then turned around and got absolutely slammed yesterday, crushed. What I think, guys, that took place here, like Con Kneppel, who, is, I'd say if you had to say right now what his odds would be for being Rookie of the Year, probably 51-49 over Cooper Flagg. I think that's the way the vote might go. That seems to be where most pundits are falling. But boy, he had 2 rough nights. He learned the rookie lessons over the first 2 playoff games. You have to. This is my point of view on Charlotte. They have to be thrilled with this season. Disappointed about not being in the playoffs, but I think they have to be thrilled because LaMelo Ball actually played like an adult and became a real good basketball player. And sometimes I say some caustic things, but I can at my age. And I just looked at what LaMelo Ball. I looked at him as a street baller. I looked at him as a great, talented, flaky head case guy. I didn't blame him when you've got the kind of family dynamic that he came through. And I'm not saying there was no abuse or anything like that. It was just a weird path to get to the NBA. And to this point, I think most critics looked at him and said, a lot of talent, but a head case, in it for himself, really doesn't get it at a high level. He certainly got it this year. And I think so. You look at that, the solidifying of the lineup, Con Kneppel's amazing contributions, unexpectedly great contributions. And I think, too, the comfort with a new coaching staff, which includes Edmonton's own Jermaine Buckner on the staff, you have to look at it after a few days and say, I think this was great, Josh.
Yeah.
I think we really broke through some barriers.
I absolutely agree with you. You, me, and Ben have all been pretty hot on the Charlotte Hornets since the new year, essentially, which is that's when LaMelo started playing like an adult. Yep. The sentiment that really goes around is I never once thought that LaMelo Ball would actually be a winning player in his life. And then all of a sudden he did.
Yes.
He averaged less points, less assists, less rebounds, but the team was better for it. And he became more efficient. So I love it from that point of view. Brandon Miller figured out his game. He doesn't have to go outside all the time. He can just take it to the rack. And I think with the addition of Con Kneppel to the lineup, he was like, yeah, okay, I can actually just go to the rack because we actually have a guy that can shoot here. So I'm with you that yes, this season is an absolute win. They had the best 5-man lineup in the NBA per net rating, with 700 more possessions played together than the second team with the highest net rating. So it was good. You talk about winning ugly against the Heat, probably the best playing game ever. They lost.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I would have thought too.
Yeah. It was a ugly loss yesterday.
That game yesterday was
so
hideous.
LaMelo had 2 points at half, but you need to hear this. I brought this up on the Triple S today. This is from OptaStats. The Hornets are the first team in NBA history to make fewer than 30 field goals, miss 30 or more threes, commit 30 or more fouls, and lose by 30 or more points, all in the same game. Regular season, playoffs, or play-in.
Wow, that's a great stat. I love stats. I hate analytics, but I love stats. And so, Manib, I think we're going to have a different opinion from you on whether it was a successful season or not in Charlotte.
Yeah, so first I want to say it kind of felt like LaMelo Ball started to give a little bit glimpses of Tyrese Halliburton. Pace of play kind of changed. They led the league in 3-point attempts and makes. The pace of play was very different when he was on the floor versus when he was off. But how many times are we going to do this with the Charlotte Hornets? Miles Bridges has been there 7 years, right? They haven't won anything. The best decision that they've made in the last 8 years is Con Kneppel. It's not good enough for us to sit here and say that this is a successful time when they haven't had any level of something to build upon. If we're sitting here and saying that this is a building step for them, it's taken too long. And I fear that in the NBA, when it takes this long, you eventually move on. And this is a big offseason for them, because if they are not attracting some level of free agents to build upon this, other teams will get better. And they are stuck in mediocrity for far too long. And I just don't know how they kind of, when you look at the all NBA free agent list, there's not a single one available. So you can't build through free agency. You can't draft, trading is very tough to do in the NBA. And you're not going to be drafting very high this year. So if you're the Charlotte Hornets, how do you continue to build upon this? And we're expecting them to be back in this position next year. I think that that's too optimistic. I think that they had to make the playoffs. Personally, I think that obviously we would have talked very differently about the Orlando Magic had they had lost. And I agree that would have been a very big disappointment on their side. But I feel like we've gone through this thing with the Charlotte Hornets way too often. And my biggest problem with the play-in game that they had was that instead of cheering their success against the Miami Heat, all everybody can talk about was the one play. And it drove me nuts. It's like this is the first semblance of hope that they've had in the last 10 years. And all we are talking about is how he pushed Bam out of the way. Like what, and again, I agree that but I'm not going to go so far to say it was a success.
I think you're off base.
Well, here a couple of thoughts I have as I'm listening to you, and I see the gray cloud hanging over your head and the rain pouring on you about Charlotte. Here, I completely disagree with you from this vantage point. It is real hard in the NBA, and I think this is borne out year in and year out to build a successful organization, particularly in a small market. Mm-hmm. And Charlotte is one of the smallest markets in the NBA. Like when you compare Charlotte even to Minneapolis, or certainly to Denver, Charlotte is in its own world. And of course, Michael Jordan's name is attached to it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just so hard to build a successful franchise. To your point, you make a good point. It's gone on a long time. For Charlotte fans, certainly far too long. But the thing is, in order to take the next step, you have to take the first step. And I think that's what they did, because not only did they make the play-in round this year, they made the play-in round, I think, when nobody expected that. And certainly the way they started the season out, you would have looked at them and go, here we go again, another train wreck in Charlotte. And they turned it around. Knuppel, 273, three-pointers.
Yep.
LaMelo, 272. Incredible steps forward. And sometimes it takes that kind of player. And Knuppel, I think, is the catalyst for their success. Serious-minded, hardcore, tough-minded, shoots it extremely well, spreads the court. Bridges finally became a closer version of the player I think people envisioned him. Brandon took a big step forward, because if this guy figures it out, Miller's going to be really good. Mm-hmm. This year, he took a step towards being really, really good. So the way I look at them is probably next year, for the reasons you describe accurately, Manib, is that they're not going to be able to strengthen up their lineup unless they're able to make some kind of unexpected trade, because they'll probably get somebody decent in the draft lower on because it's a good draft. But what they're going to have to do is build with this young core that they already have and see how much better that can be if they're able to stay healthy. For me, it's a big win for Charlotte, because being part of the long-suffering Timberwolves culture, where I know how hard it is for so many reasons. It's like there's this straight and narrow path. Ben Golliver and I talk about this a bit in our conversation later. But it's like there's this straight and narrow that a few teams get on, and for a couple of reasons. One is they have a great front office. Number two, they draft wisely and the players pan out. And number three, the basketball gods just say, you know what? We're going to make OKC good now. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be way better than anybody thought he would be. Mm-hmm. Nobody expected that. So there is an element of unexpected, an unexpected blessing that has to, I think, come about within a franchise in order to be good. Like, look at Washington. Look at Philadelphia. Look at these teams that have tried to rebuild and just fail miserably for any number of reasons. It's just really hard. So for me, Charlotte, I think, was really successful this year. I think your points are well taken. It's taken a long time. But the bottom line is now they're competitive. the fan base is jazzed again. And you've got some young guys that, if they stay healthy, could be really, really good.
So what happens if they decide to trade LaMelo this offseason?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So I'm looking at their payroll right now, and Paul, I think you hit the nail on the head with a certain word, which was culture. They're building a culture right now. Tell me what the culture in Charlotte was before this, because it was like
revolving door culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring
like,
him in, fire.
Bring him in, absolutely. And hey, you know what? We've got Kimba. That's good enough. Like, he's good enough to sell some tickets. Con Knipple coming in. I remember a big headline of the year was when they went to Milwaukee, and they're like, Con, you're from here. Like, where are we going for dinner? And he says, well, I'm going home. And they said, great. We're all going to Con's house for dinner.
I know.
And that's like where everything changed. So you have to build this culture, and their entire core is back next year. Their entire team. The only person not coming back is Kobe White, who they traded for at the deadline, and Xavier Tillman Sr. Kobe White obviously made that huge shot in the playing game. But I think you said first step. I think a big step next year, especially because the NBA is a fickle thing. Someone is going to get injured in this playoffs, and it's going to kill a team. The Sixers, like, as great as Tyrese Maxey is,
he is great. Yeah,
this is sort of their ceiling with no Joel Embiid, you know, and so they can make that step up. The Hornets, or the Raptors, I think we could all agree are ahead of schedule in a sense.
And we're going to get to the Raptors in just a little bit here, but I want to emphasize a couple of other points that I think is a positive. There are some real, what I would call exceptionally positive trends in the NBA right now. Number one, you have young athletes who are the adults in the room, that are the personalities, that are the that express themselves emotionally in a positive way. Like the way the team celebrated when they were winning games is very reminiscent of the NCAA.
I agree.
Love that. Number two, I'm going to call it the Wemby effect, but I think I would call it even more than that. I would call the Wemby plus rookie effect in the NBA on the culture of teams and players. Before I touch on that, real quickly, OKC and Denver have led the way now in culture, building culture in a team, building around quality players and quality people as the way forward. That talent no longer is the only precursor towards team success. It's find some critical talent and then build role players around them and build a culture of excitement and enthusiasm and keep players in your program that want to be there and want to do exceptional things. That's number one. But the Wemby plus rookie effect is Wemby's ticked when he loses and joyful when he wins. He goes off and does spiritual guidance in the off season. He cries on his mother's shoulder when he loses the gold medal. This matters to him in a way that basketball should matter. It matters to Con Knipple, who comes from this marvelous basketball family in Milwaukee with three, sounds like stud younger brothers that are going to be players as well. And then you look at Cooper Flagg, who comes into a horribly constructed Dallas Maverick lineup, and there are injuries and blah, 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 all the excuses that we've made for them, but has a historic rookie season there on this really bad team. And so, and again, the way he conducts himself, and I would even extend it over into Caitlin Clark and the way she's reshaping the WNBA. Thank God.
Thank God.
Because now, I mean, we have seen Caitlin's excellence and superior public relations skills revealing and outing the horrible public relations skills of many of the WNBA players, of pettiness, jealousy, dirty play, all of those things. But now the league is coming around to being more like a Caitlin Clark. So there is a real shift, I think, by the players. Now, we can talk about head office, and I'd throw Adam Silver under the bus in a heartbeat. I'm not an Adam Silver guy at all. In some respects, he's a smart guy, but I don't like his values. I don't like the way what his points of emphasis are oftentimes, but I sure like what I'm seeing from players, coaches, and organizations.
I think a lot of that has to go in with the NIL and the ability that college athletes are now earning lots of money.
Yes.
Because the importance on winning to your point, taking it serious because of the money has impacted them. And you see it a lot throughout colleges. Obviously, you're earning a few $1 million. Now you're getting media trained. So
Very much
you're
so.
coming into the
Good
league
point.
as somebody that's already been to the top. And now I've talked to a lot of scouts, and I just asked them a simple question, like how important is it for you to find out when you're going through the draft process on how much they love ball, right? Like when you do these interviews and you get 20 minutes, right? At the end of the day, the draft is the right roll of the dice. You have zero idea what this individual is going to be when they come into your building. When you get 20 minutes of interview, what are you actually asking them? You're just asking them if they love the sport, because everything else can kind of work itself out. We've done the process already. So I think a lot of that does have to go in with these college athletes now making a lot of money, and they're coming in a little bit younger as well now. So
and they're coming in, and they're coming in younger and older. Because now you're going to see most likely some guys that have declared for the draft decide to stay in college because they can make more money. And so it really has created a dynamic where now players are going to be coming out of college again. Now, because of the money that's out on the table and in the public, they're going to be coming into the pros more mature, more seasoned, more physically ready, because there are very few Wembys. There's very few Kobes. There's very few Kevin Garnetts that can fit. LeBron James, I mean, the most, maybe the most ready player ever physically out of high school for the NBA. Now you're going to get that advantage of that experience, a la Tim Duncan, playing 4 years and coming in and being NBA ready.
The other thing is that I feel like a lot of the older legends that have kind of gone through are willing to work with a lot of these younger kids. You saw Wemby with Kevin Garnett for the last offseason. You've seen Cooper Flagg working with Kevin Durant in the offseason and things like that, preparing Colin Knippel working with Giannis in Milwaukee, right? So like having a little bit of more access, I think has helped as well. And then in the college game, because you have 18-year-old and 28-year-old on the same team, I think has also, which is kind of weird, but it has also kind of helped.
Well, and I think the NCAA, Josh, is going to start taking concrete steps like that. I think the most recent one is now 5 years. The clock starts at 19. You got 5 years to play in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree with that, because what do you do with the JUCO kids now? Like they say your JUCO experience doesn't count against your eligibility. Well, now it will. If you play 2 years and you're 20 years old, now you've got, instead of 5, you got 4 years or 3 years in some cases. So, but the NCAA, the problem is, like we've talked about on this show many times, Josh, is they let the cats out of the corral. And trying to herd the cats back in now is going to be next to impossible, because as soon as they do that, somebody's going to take the NCAA to court and win.
Yeah, it's the famous saying, right?
Careful,
Pandora's box been opened.
Yep.
Once
what
it's
you
open,
wish for.
yeah, you can't close it again. So that's essentially what it is. And yes, I think older people coming into the league is better, or because they are more seasoned pros. You brought up Wemby. Like, yeah, he was ready to come in, but he'd been playing pro since he was 14, right? Same with Luka. All these guys, it's like they are more mentally ready coming in, and these guys are culture changers. Like you saw Luka when he came in with the Mavericks, they had a totally different look. They were fighting for a playoff spot. Wemby is the most competitive player I've ever seen in my entire life.
He's refreshingly competitive in an era. He expresses his competitiveness in an old school way, because he really reminds me of Jordan Bird, Magic, Russell, those kind of players who were very expressive while they were competing. And it's refreshing to see, because I appreciate Wemby, because the way he expresses himself is what I would call real human emotion, as opposed to the BS human emotion of guys screaming their heads off, making their various gestures and signs, which drives me out of my mind. It's a basket. So the heck what? Yeah, just get back and play some defense. But there, I'm a curmudgeonly old guy. But you know what? We're going to take a break, guys, now, because we need to break down in our next segment the East and the West matchups. We've got the NBA matchups starting shortly here, and we're going to go through each of them and make our comments and predictions. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir along with Josh Fenwick and along with Manib Khan, who's with us today. He's from the Manib Khan Show. You can listen every Sunday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. here on Sports 1440. We'll be back right after these messages.
When you hit the ice, it's all about you and your skates. The stride, the feel, the glide, the power, the performance. Why trust your skates to a grinding machine, or even worse, a tournament parent in a parking lot? At Aligned Custom Skate Performance in Sherwood Park, the art of skate fitting and sharpening is customized to the athlete.
Aligned Custom Skate Performance, where precision meets passion. Oh.
Visit AlignedSkate.com to learn more.
If you're without personal health insurance benefits from your employer and are self-employed or retiring, contact Innovative Benefits. Innovative Benefits helps break down personal health plans to put you in the driver's seat and reduce your net cost. They'll help identify the best plan for you and your family so you can pay for what you do use and look how to reduce what you don't use. Don't be left out in the cold. Understand all your options with Innovative Benefits. For more information, visit innovativebenefits.ca today.
It's 36 hours of amazing store-wide savings, and it's on now. Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's 36-hour sale. It's the perfect time to redecorate with a huge selection of beautifully crafted Lazy Boy furniture, and it's all on sale. Don't miss out on 36 hours of incredible savings at both Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's locations, South Edmonton Common and in the West End on 170th Street. It's the most amazing 36 hours.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Built for real-life confidence. Visit Subaru.ca.
I wish this day would just crawl back under a rock.
No need to be so crabby.
But I am a crab, and it's crab season.
Oh, ho, ho, fair enough, Mr. Crab. Catch of the Week loves crab season, and so do all our customers. Come pick up sweet, delicious snow crab, fresh from the East Coast.
Catch of the Week, Edmonton's best seafood. Just off the Henday in Capilano, only 5 minutes from Sherwood Park. Details and directions online at catchoftheweekedmonton.com.
Professional golf is coming to Blackhawk Golf Club this fall. The ATB Classic, presented by Building Trades of Alberta, brings the stars of PGA Tour Americans to you. Enjoy the ATB Fan Zone, presented by Michelob Ultra, where golf meets festival vibes. Upgrade to VIP-covered terrace seating with premium food and beverage options. September 17th to 20th. Tickets start at just $25, and the first 250 buyers receive a PGA Tour America's commemorative gift. Get yours at atbclassic.com.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back, everybody, on this beautiful Saturday morning to the palatial studios of Sports 1440. I'm here with Manib Khan and with Josh Fenwick, our show's producer, and we're going to start by attacking the NBA playoffs, which get started at 11 a.m. with our own Toronto Raptors at seed at number 5. Finished the season strong, had a great last week, won out in their last week, and now they face off against the ballyhooed Cleveland Cavaliers with, it's a great word, isn't it? That's an old guy word, ballyhooed, that you use in situations just like this. But I think like right now you've got the Cavs who, if you look starting lineup, you have to say most likely Cavs have more talent in the starting lineup, maybe. But can the Raptors give the Cleveland Cavaliers a series? If there is one series, I believe, where the lower seed in the first round can win, I think it's this series. I think that, in my opinion, I think the Raptors have a shot. Pirtle is a good big, and he's going to be able to compete, I think, favorably with Jared Allen. Mobley, neither team is overly physical in terms of their big guys, and that, I think, favors the Raptors. Ingram has been playing marvelously well. He was the NBA Player of the Week. He's playing extremely well. And Scotty Barnes, on a lot of people's voting ballots, guys, is a borderline third-team NBA All-Star and certainly a first-team All-NBA defensive team. And here's my premise, and I'll go to you guys. Scotty Barnes can, because he's somewhat positionless as a defender, he can guard Donovan Mitchell. And with his length and size advantage, I think he could be a factor because to me, the Cavaliers, more so than James Harden, their fortunes will rely on Donovan Mitchell. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, we talked about it. I don't think the Raptors actually have a sniff in this at all. I totally disagree with you, Paul, because
you're right. You have every right to be wrong.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Hey, fair enough. Because the one thing that we all know about the NBA playoffs is you have to be able to hit the 3 ball, and the Raptors just cannot do it.
100% right.
And Donovan Mitchell scares the hell out of me as a playoff performer. I think sometimes it does come at the expense of his own team, but now that he has a ball mover in James Harden, who's not going to be relied on to take all the shots all the time. Like, this is a guy who for his career averages 28 points per game in the playoffs.
Right.
So, and I like what they have down low. And I do not trust the shooting of the Toronto Raptors to really make this a series, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
So give me the Cavs in
Raptors,
5.
Okay, Cavs in 5. Okay, but and you know what? The Raptors have given you no reason to trust their 3-point shooting. However, if the Raptors are able to make this a dogfight and not allow Cleveland to get downhill on them the whole time, which will be very tough with Harden, he's the master of getting downhill. And Donovan Mitchell, as you said, has been a very, very effective playoff performer. All that aside, I still think, I'm not saying the Raptors will win. This pick of the series that we have, Manib, this is the one series in the first round where I think the lower seed has a shot.
Yeah, I think the 4-5 matchup is always very, very interesting as well. The other thing that I think that the Raptors definitely have a chance, but the other thing that I think is important to note is that Josh is kind of in the majority when it comes to this, right? Like,
it makes and for good reason.
I watch a lot of Raptors basketball.
Right, for good reason. Yeah. And the Cavs are under a lot of pressure. I mean, this is a make. You don't make the trade to go get James Harden if you are not trying to win right now.
Win now,
right? The Raptors are playing with house money, and when you're playing with house money, I think that there is a realistic chance that you can win. And pull an upset essentially, right? Like today's game is opened up as a 9-point dog. So like not only are we supposed to lose, we're supposed to lose big against this Cavs team.
That's a big spread.
And I just think that, you said we're scared of Donovan Mitchell. I think, everywhere James Harden's been, he is the system. And I think that his ability to keep everybody involved, like Jared Allen and that 2-man game, I think that we have to eliminate. Because, Josh talked about how Donovan Mitchell is going to give you 28 to 30 regardless. If you can hold him under 25 points, that's already a win. So you know what you're getting from him. But if James Harden's giving you 15 and 12 assists, okay, now we have a situation where we can't stop anything.
If Jared Allen is getting his easy points at the rim, and that pick and roll action does start freeing up 3-point opportunities, and with Strus being back, 100% right, 100%. I'm just going for the sake of it. I'm looking at it and saying, I like the way the Raptors finished the season. I think Scotty Barnes can be an impact defender. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are not a physical team. They're very good. They should win, but the Raptors have a shot. Let's move on. Today also, we've got the Hawks versus the Knicks.
I'm surprised you didn't go with that one to pull the upset.
Hawks versus the Knicks?
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't go in that direction.
I guess the way I'm looking at it, Manib, is that I think the Hawks, and again, we have another Edmontonian in there who GM. A lot of people feel could be GM of the year. Nancy Salah, like Ross Shepgrad. 2 Ross Shepgrads in the NBA.
He was my pick for executive of the year.
How about that?
Incredible. But the Hawks have the ability to win this. I'm going to go with the Knicks. I think they have playoff experience that the Hawks don't possess at this point. And you talk about pressure on the Cavs. Think of the pressure on the Knicks. Take the Cavs pressure, multiply it by 500 in New York, and that's what the Knicks have right now. They have all the pressure in the world on them. I am going with the Knicks in this one. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tight series because what the Hawks have become on the back of Jalen Johnson is a gritty defensive team, and he doesn't always put up like monster points or anything, but he does everything on the court. I still like the Knicks in this series. I would take the Knicks in 7 because at the end of the day, I think they just have the best player in the series in Jalen Brunson. And we saw what he can do in the clutch all of last year's postseason. So I would take the Knicks in 7 in this one. Hawks, not enough playoff experience, and your first playoff games are in the mecca of basketball.
Yeah, Knicks have to win. I'm sorry. Like, there's no other way that you let go of Tom Thibodeau last year to bring in Mike Brown, and he wins 50 games, and all this conversation about Tom Thibodeau couldn't get it done in the playoffs because he played too many minutes for his starters and all. None of us loved the firing of that coach. And even if you did, how much better has this team really gone, right? And I think that the Knicks, like to your point, under a lot of pressure, but deservingly so. You have gone out and done everything to help establish a team that's supposed to win, right? Jalen Brunson got all of his friends as teammates. You went out and got Karl-Anthony Towns. And I think Cat has to be the best player in the series because you're going to need Jalen Brunson to be the guy in every other series, but you don't know what you're going to get from Cat on a given night. So I think he has to be the physical guy, come out and assert his dominance from day one.
Famously, about a month ago, Karl-Anthony Towns said he's still trying to figure out his role on this team.
Yeah, like what are
That's
we doing?
a problem.
Is that not a coaching like issue though?
No, that is a Karl-Anthony Towns problem.
Cat is noted for his fogginess in terms of how he perceives himself. I would say he needs to be the second or third best player in the series. I still think Jalen Brunson, it still rises and falls on Jalen Brunson to me, but Cat has to be second or third best. He has to be, and by that I mean maybe Johnson from Atlanta is slightly better. But if you can get 18 and 12, or 18 to 25 and 12 from Towns every game,
you're good.
And Brunson, I think they're good enough. All right, let's move on. 76ers versus the Celtics. I mean, this is, to me, what this is an opportunity for Maxey from Philly to show what he's made of against Derek White, for instance, who's a phenomenal first-team all-defender, long, bigger, stronger than Maxey. So Maxey has a chance to prove some stuff. I look for the Celtics in 5 on this, or 4 myself, just because I don't think Philly without Embiid, and I'm not an Embiid guy, but without Embiid, I don't think they have a chance. And so, but having Tatum back, having the opportunity, hopefully, to continue the process of playing him into shape, Josh, I think I mean, you have to look at the Celtics as, a lot of people have Mazzulla as coach of the year among all of the great coaching that's happened in the NBA. Surprise on some pretty surprising teams, but maybe this is one of the great coaching jobs in recent memory.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Joe Mazzulla has done this year, especially, and Jaylen Brown taking the big jump. Celtics in 4, like I don't think it's particularly close. Just the 76ers again. I think they're just happy to be here,
and maybe they are. And I would like to give a lot of credit and a real shout out to Nick Nurse. I thought he did a great job.
He's doing a fantastic job
with this mess they call a team. Paul George, great move again. There's some guys that are just like Bradley Beal and Paul George kind of are at the top of the list of guys. No matter where they go, they poison the water in some way. And that's not because they're bad dudes. Well, no, not because they're bad dudes. They're just not, they were good at one point and they aren't anymore at that point. And they're hurt all the time. And are they great in the locker room? Beal, we know isn't. George, we think might not be. So what are you really getting when you're betting the house money on that? So I would say, how about yourself? How many?
Well, I think the Celtics are going to win. You talked in the start about culture and some of the teams that have built it. I think the Boston Celtics are kind of the proponent of what the culture is 100%. Because their head coach got the big man job and moved offices and hired Joe Mazzulla, and it's been kind of a seamless fit. But the Sixers, they're just proponent and reliant on JoJo's health, and that kind of handicaps them too much. But I will say, PEDP is what they're calling Paul George right now. He has played he's played well in the last since he's come back out of the suspension. Yeah. So maybe we should be giving him more of those injections.
And I hope so. And I hope, and you know what? I hope he comes out, and I hope he proves me wrong, but a lot of people wrong, and the critics of him, because a lot of what's happened is because of his injury, being so injury prone. Mm-hmm. All right. Final Magic in Detroit in 4 for me. But maybe the Magic, because physically they are a physical team. Detroit's a physical team. I just look at Detroit now that Cunningham's back and getting closer to being himself again. I just look at Detroit with their toughness. And if there's any criticism that is most merited about Orlando, it would be their mental toughness, I think. So I would look in 4 or 5 for Detroit. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'll take Detroit in 6 in this one, because Jalen Duren held out of the season finale with a knee injury. He's a game time decision today, and Cade Cunningham had a collapsed lung. I think it's going to take just a minute for his conditioning to get there, but Cade is a really good player. I think I just see a world where the physicality of the Magic, probably in Orlando, is what does it to the Pistons, but they end up cleaning up.
And in fairness to the Magic, and they're an easy franchise not to be fair with or look for reasons to be positive about after a pretty dismal season, is they are finally healthy at the exact right time. So, and they throttled Charlotte last night. Now that was a snapshot. Is that, that's a 1-game picture. That's all it is. But I still think 5 at the most. But anyway, Manib,
we've seen 2 different Magic teams in the last 5 days.
Yeah, you have. That's true.
So I'm going to go
2 different Paolo Bancheros over the last 5 days. That's what it is.
Yeah. And Franz still doesn't look completely healthy. So, and I think he is one of their most important players.
Along with, I put him on the same pedestal with Banchero. I think he's got to be at his very best.
Yeah. And, the Desmond Bane thing has worked. It's also another weird situation with that. And remember, right before the play-in games, there was a report that came out that the Magic will move on from Jamal Mosley, regardless of what happens in this. So I don't love their culture. I think Detroit in 4.
Yep. Okay, you're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. Manib Khan here talking playoff basketball, doing our NBA preview. All right, guys, of course, you're going to get my bias on this, but the series, we're going to start with the series.
This is the series.
Minnesota and Denver, 1:30 today. Everybody, streets should be quiet. There shouldn't be a car on the street. Everybody should be parked in front of their TV watching the Nuggets and the Wolves play. So here's the question. I'm going to answer this last. Does Minnesota, they've given Denver a lot of trouble for a long time. Does this version of the T-Wolves, given that Ant's knee has been problematic and still is, he's not 100%, do the Wolves have a shot at a team in Denver that's not 100% healthy? Watson's still out, but Joker is Zeus right now in terms of just the way he's playing. So does Minnesota have a shot in this series, or is Denver going to exact the revenge that they're out to get?
So you brought up the Raptors is the most likely to upset somebody or upset in the first round as the lower seed. I think it's absolutely 110% the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a team that's been to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. I know Ant isn't 100% healthy, and they're playing legitimately the best player in the world. But to me, the X factor is the addition of Ayo Dosunmu. This is a playoff guy. He's solid 2-way. He's got hands. He can get some steals in there, and he's got a reliable outside shot, and he's a good playmaker. And then you have the shot maker in Anthony Edwards. So really, it comes down to, will Jokic have these 56, 15, 18 games that he put up against the Minnesota Timberwolves all year? But probably. I mean, he's the best player on the planet. I know it's playoff basketball, and he's getting guarded by Rudy Gobert, who is not who he once was. But I like the Timberwolves I like the Timberwolves a lot in this. I like sneaky. Give me the Timberwolves in 7.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Manib?
Look, obviously this is a fun series. And if you remember a few years ago, there was a famous quote by Anthony Edwards before they played the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant. He said, yeah, they got Kevin Durant, but we got Jaden McDaniels. And I think Jaden McDaniels, he is the ultimate X factor when you play the Minnesota Timberwolves, because you know what you're going to get on the defensive side. Obviously, he can guard 1 through 4, but if he's going to give you 20 points like that, you're going to win a lot of those games. And I love the Denver Nuggets. You said that they were kind of on a roll going in. They won 13 in a row, actually, to start their playoff run. I like the Denver Nuggets. I will take the Denver Nuggets in 5, actually. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves, as good as they are, they can't get out of this Rudy Gobert situation. And they need to play Naz Reid a lot more minutes.
They'll have to play Naz a lot more, and I think you're absolutely right. To me, the critical factor is Ant. Your point about Dosunmu, that was a phenomenal pickup by the Wolves, and he has I think earned the kind of accolades that you gave him, Josh. He's really a really good player, and with them, the T-Wolves, I don't know if you say they blew it. Well, yeah, they blew it. They should have found a way to keep Alexander Walker. And Finch should have done a better job at getting more out of Alexander Walker. He had him too pigeonholed into the kind of player that he felt he should be. But I look at this as Denver. I'm going to go Denver in 6 because I think Jokic wants this. I think Jokic wants this so bad. I did a lot of thinking this past week about who's the MVP in the league, and I came to the conclusion, hands down, it's Nikola Jokic is the MVP this year for me, because it's not just, I mean, as phenomenal as Shea is, he's on a better team, and he carried the team when they had injuries. But what Jokic did, he doesn't just carry the team. He throws everybody on the back, and he walks uphill while pulling a trailer behind him. Like he is the consummate guy who makes not just great numbers on the offensive end by himself, but when you look at the rebounds and the assists, how many points he creates for other players. I think it's something like 28 points a game that he creates through his assists. That goes way beyond what Shea does. And no player is more important to their team than Nikola Jokic. Now, having said that, Wolves have had success. I haven't liked how they played this year. They have been really up and down. And now with Ant being somewhat questionable and Denver being locked in, Jamal Murray playing as well as he is, Aaron Gordon being back and healthy, hopefully for the whole playoffs. And that to me would be the one thing that would derail Denver, is if Aaron Gordon went down or Peyton Watson couldn't come back. If they can get Watson in games 2 or 3, I look at this being Denver's year with the home court advantage, although there's all kinds of reasons to go the way that you went, Josh, because we remember Game 7 from a couple of years ago in Denver. Denver way up going into the fourth quarter, and they found a way to lose it. So lessons learned. So it's going to be a great series.
I think we have to remember, though, that the Minnesota Timberwolves have a guy. It's just so right, like Josh. It's so important to have
this is now guy versus guy, right? So
Yes.
it's who are the rest of the guys.
Yes.
And Minnesota has some good rest of the guys too.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with you about Rudy. I still think he is. You about Rudy. I still think he's effective in the right situations, and he will be able to play some minutes in this series.
Jokic has his number. He's
Jokic. Well, yeah,
but he has
Jokic
everybody's number.
Wemby's number. Like,
Jokic has everybody's number, but he's had Rudy Gobert's number basically since coming in the league.
Oh yeah, I mean Rudy and Jokic. It is a junior high versus pro.
Yeah.
Real quickly, guys. Houston Lakers. Manib, Lakers have any shot?
No, I think the Rockets in 6. I think LeBron gives them 2 games.
Okay.
Ditto.
Okay. I'm going to go Rockets in 5. Suns versus Thunder. Right.
Yeah, Thunder in 4.
Can they win in 3 games? I think the refs just give them the 4th.
Yeah,
game.
I just think you forfeit.
Dylan Brooks could get him a game.
Who are the Blazers playing?
The Blazers are playing the Spurs.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think
heard
they
of
got
the
a game.
Spurs. That game in Phoenix, it kind of tying back to the joy of winning, to see Portland win the way they did, see Denny play the way he has, the way he's emerged this year. Again, you can see a poison culture versus a culture that's grounded in building, I won't say the right way, but building in a way that makes sense as opposed to just continuing to throw darts at the board like the Washington team does, and to give up on Denny the way they did and to get back what they got, which was not much, and to turn around and to see Portland be able to have him come into kind of borderline franchise player, not quite, but really close right now. But the Spurs, oh my God, they have what a marvelous season. Wemby is a revelation. The question is Wemby at 22
experience
championship ready? I think he is. I think the West is going to be fantastic. If Denver does get through Denver, San Antonio, my God. And then if San Antonio were to get through that, San Antonio, OKC, oh my God.
Yeah.
What epic series those will be. I look for I look at this to be, I'm going to go with the Blazers or with the Spurs in 5.
I agree. Spurs in 5. I think the Blazers get the first game. I think they're jacked up that they won the play-in game, and they come in and they're super excited. And everyone else in the Spurs is sort of taken off guard, except for Wemby. They lose the first game, and then he's like, guys, let's dial in. And they win the next 4 straight.
Yeah, I think the Spurs are going to win in 5. But, to the Portland Trailblazers, I mean, I think we forget that this year was the Chauncey Billups.
What a wild situation, eh?
Right? What a wild situation. That happened this year. I think we forget that Thiago Splitter took over.
Listen to the podcast I have with Ben Golliver, because he's from Portland. And so he's got some real great insights into that exact phenomenon. To overcome that,
yes.
The FBI arresting your
sitting head coach,
like unthinkable. And to come back and to do what they've done, another one of the great stories.
In the Western Conference, Denny making an all-star team in the like. I think so many things came together. I think they deserve at least to win one game.
I hope they do. I hope they do. They're an easy team to pull for right now. Neeb, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
This was fantastic. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about our community champion and some other stuff that's going on locally here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Mandeep Khan, our guest today, and our great show's producer, Josh Fenwick.
Legacy Heating and Cooling offers no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace. So when you wake up to no heat, if you need it immediately with no overtime rates, if you need it immediately and want to combo it with AC, no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace. It could only be Legacy Heating and Cooling.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable, water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all 3 of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, tough different jobs.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Safety, reliability, and uncommon value. Visit Subaru.ca.
Is your business ready to grow? Not sure how? We have your solution. We are Stingray. Whether your customers are around the corner or across the country, Stingray connects you with radio to digital advertising, including connected TV, search and social, programmatic, digital advertising, and digital out of home. From idea to execution, we've got you covered. With creative and production, cross-platform integration, detailed reporting, and one-on-one support, it's the easy way to make your business grow. Get started now at stingraymediasolutions.com.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back. This will be a short segment as before we get to our deep dive, but we're going to talk about our community champions right now. Community Champions sponsored by Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your company benefits, personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, you've got to talk to Randy Parrish and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you straightforward and honest advice with access to the very best products in the industry. Trust the great folks, and that's the big thing. You got to trust people when they're dealing with your money, and these are the people you can trust at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, your family, and your business, all very important parts of your life. To find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. That's innovativebenefits.ca. Our community champion this week is a gentleman by the name of Stefan Lebon. Stefan was an official in the Edmonton community for many, many years. And he and his family moved away from Edmonton out to BC a few years ago. But I coached for a long, long time in the Edmonton area. I, of course, had my own things with officials and had way too many technicals. And most of the people that are officiating are really good folks. The folks at EBOA try real hard to do a good job to keep officials coming into the community, to keep being able to provide quality officiating for all of the people playing basketball at all the different levels in the community. Stefan worked his way up through the junior high, high school, and into the college and university ranks. And I can reflect on Stefan on a very personal level because there was no one that I enjoyed more when I saw Stefan walk into the gym before a game. I go, this is going to be great tonight, because I knew Stefan would be on the court, not just giving 100%, but doing a great job as an official and being willing to dialogue with the coaches, even when, and this is personal, I guess, directed on a personal level, even when sometimes the coaches would get a bit heated. Stefan knew how to diffuse situations. He never shied away from just talking to the coaches, working through if there was a question or if a coach was getting too carried away, calming the coach down, trying to keep the game focused on the players. And Stefan, he was a gentleman. He was just a wonderful human being. He was the kind of guy that when you saw him walking down the hall, you couldn't wait to go up, shake his hand, say hi, and have a conversation with him, because he was a beautiful, beautiful human being. Stefan was taken from us recently after a long, courageous fight with cancer. And we are so sorry for Stefan's two daughters. We're so sorry for the officiating and basketball communities, because when you talk about somebody embodying the notion of being a community champion, nobody was more of a community champion than Stefan Lebon. We're going to miss you, Stefan. God bless. I want to give a shout out as well to a couple of other people that I think are very, very special. Before I forget, recently, I believe it was EYBA, gave out 2 awards for coaching excellence in their recent celebration of their winter seasons. And the name, I'm not going to share the names of the coaches because, quite frankly, congratulations to the coaches, but I'm focusing on who the awards are named after, because they follow also in the footsteps of what I just described with Stefan Lebon. Brian Anderson, the great Harry Ainley coach, football, girls basketball, boys basketball, provincial champ, member of the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame, and long-time huge sports advocate on Edmonton City Council. Nobody fought as hard as Brian Anderson did, along with the great mayor Steve Mandel, to make sports happen in our city. When we were able to put the deal together to bring Canada Basketball's women's national team here It was due to Brian Anderson working with his fellow counselors to tell them about the benefits of having a great team like this in our community and the effect that that could have on particularly young girls. But Brian Anderson was a true mountain of a man. And he is honored, and I am proud to say when I was at Basketball Alberta, it was the staff that I worked with and our board of directors that came up with naming the Girls Coaching Award after Brian Anderson. And I'm also proud on the next level that for the boys, it's for the Phil Allen Memorial Award for coaching excellence. And Phil winning as coach in Canadian college basketball history, dear friend, one of the founders of club basketball in Edmonton, phenomenal coach at SAIT, where he won national championships, at Grant McEwen, at Lakeland College. He went out to Lloydminster. They didn't even have a basketball program, I don't think, when he showed up in Lloydminster. And within a year, they were winning the league. Like, Phil was a phenomenal coach, but even more than that, a phenomenal human being. We miss Phil, we miss Brian, and now we miss Stefan. So thank you for these people and what they do for our communities. Finally, a couple of other shout outs. We had on our show a few weeks ago a gentleman from Southern Alberta, and Brian has been hosting has been the primary person hosting the Girls All-Star Showcase down in Southern Alberta for now 33 years. You talk about an unsung hero. They just finished their 33rd annual showcase. 125 players from around the province came. They played in 10 games, plus a 3x3 mini tournament and a 3-point competition. They had a banquet. They handed out awards. Every player there got a medal. They celebrate girls basketball, girls high school basketball at such a high level. But a tribute to Brian and his team. Thank you for bringing that forward. And in terms of All-Stars, high school All-Stars tonight, or today rather, later in the afternoon, the Edmonton Stingers are going to be hosting the high school girls all-star games over at Harry Ainley High School. The girls start at 5 o'clock. The boys start at 7 o'clock. It's a $5 admission. Go on over and support your local high school players. It's going to be there'll be a couple of great games. Good on the Stingers for putting this together. The Stingers, by the way, added a G Leaguer this week. I know they have more roster announcements is coming up, and they better get them out soon as we have training camps starting in less than 2 weeks, and the season's about 3 weeks away. So maybe even a bit less than that, but the season's just right around the corner for the Edmonton Stingers and pro basketball in Edmonton. We're going to take a break right now, and it's really important to me as part of this show that we support people in our community. I'm always grateful for the people at Sports 1440 who have allowed me to be able to talk about basketball on the airwaves and over YouTube, but I'm mostly grateful to the people in the community who do the work, a lot of it thankless, and the many, many hours that people oftentimes don't understand or appreciate to make basketball possible, particularly for the young people in our community. Stefan, we'll miss you. Brian and Phil, of course, we always miss you. So we're going to take a break right now, and I have a great segment coming up. The next two segments are the deep dive with Ben Golliver, and we go deep into the NBA playoffs, and you're going to get Ben's great perspectives when we come back here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
What keeps Alberta business moving? It's pallets. Whether you're shipping, manufacturing, or looking for in-house storage solutions. Hi, it's Andrew with the Pallet Recycler here in Edmonton, and we've been providing reliable, affordable, recycled, and custom pallets for local businesses for the past 30 years. Contact the Pallet Recycler at 825-474-1981 to find out why recycled pallets are the most cost-effective way to move and store your product. Learn about our recycling program as well at thepalletrecycler.ca.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all three of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, tough different jobs.
Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's 36-hour sale is the perfect time to save on a huge selection of quality Lazy Boy furniture. Everything store-wide has been marked down. Sofas, sectionals, recliners, solid wood bedroom furniture, and dining room suites. Let our in-house design team help beautify any room in your house. The 36-hour
City
sale.
with Paul Sir.
Both Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's locations, South Edmonton Common and in the West End.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440, powered by Subaru. The perfect choice for Alberta's challenging weather and road conditions. Visit Subaru.ca. Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free Radio Player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir on the deep dive with my good friend Ben Golliver in sunny Southern California. But you know what, Ben? The background, of course. We'll disregard that, but it sets the tone. But we had about 5 inches of snow 2 days ago. But we're going to be about 65 or 70 in a day. So we're on a much better path.
Now, do they have symbols there locally that you're out of the woods? Like, or is there going to be a fluke snowstorm in the middle of May that comes back to bite you? Like, how do you know it's done for sure?
You don't. You never know it's done for sure. There is no such thing. My birthday is May 16th, and once they had, I think it was 14 inches of snow on May 16th. So you never know in this region of the country. So, but hey, you count your blessings in other ways, because it isn't that background weather that I see in your window every time we talk. When I get I'm as green with envy as the trees are outside of your window.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful spring here, and it's funny because, maybe not so much on the court, right? We got this perfect weather, but then the poor Lakers kind of like falling to pieces right before the playoffs when everybody's hopes were up. And then the Clippers, if you can believe it, I mean, it's still snowing for you and their basketball season's already over, So they went home this week in the play-in tournament. They got a horrible start to their year. They turned it all the way back around. They changed the team, it felt like 3 or 4 times. And now they're done. So, I would say the weather here has been better than the basketball. Let's put it that way.
It certainly has been. It's a lot sunnier than in either franchise right now. But let's talk about, let's jump into that about how, and I was thinking about how to frame this, how hard it has been to build a successful franchise, not just a team, but a franchise. And I will say, since the early days of the Clippers, they have had. I loved how you referenced the basketball gods in one of your most recent, if not your most recent article. I've used that reference point a lot myself, and I just have this idea of Mount Hoop Olympus, where the gods are sitting up around and thinking, how can we make this absolutely miserable for these people and great for these others? And they come up with their levers and they're pulling them. And I look at the Clippers, and my gosh, they have been just cursed from the beginning. The great, wonderful Elgin Baylor as a player, just a dreadful reign as GM, ownership issues that were so inappropriate way before political correctness. You have a Clipper owner that was doing stuff you just shouldn't do. And they've come close. They've never been able to turn a corner. And like you said, this year, they've got, I think, a real solid coach in Ty Lue. They reconfigured their lineups dramatically, and then in the end, poof. And I don't think. Did you think the Warriors really had a shot at that game, or did you think that was going to be one and done for them?
No, I was really concerned that coming into that game, the Warriors were going to just lay down. I always go back to the bubble year. Remember, they said, "Don't invite us to Disney World." They were like the loudest team. They know when they have it. They know when they don't have it. And this year, they clearly don't have it because of that Jimmy Butler injury. Steph Curry, they were saying, was on a minutes limit. They were trying to be real cautious with him. And then, you look at their record, it's clearly a below 500 team that's just not on the same level. So you add up all those factors, they have to go on the road, and you're thinking, well, this could be an opportunity for the Clippers to take care of business. But the basketball god said, hey, you can't tell us you're going to plant trees and then not plant the trees, right? I mean, you can't have these alleged under the table shady dealings and expect to get away with it. And I just thought it was so fitting and so appropriate that the guy who's been at the center of this scandal for the Clippers was the guy who got completely erased by Draymond Green in the fourth quarter. I think Steph Curry outscored Kawhi Leonard 11-2 in the fourth quarter. I saw people putting Kawhi Leonard on MVP ballots, top 5 ballots this past week. I have no idea how they came to that conclusion. I understand he's a good basketball player, but he's playing for a 500 team that was like 6-21 in December that had to change the entire supporting cast around him. He's never been a vocal leader. He's never really done much of anything of consequence in his 7 years here with the Clippers, and he disappeared in last year's playoffs in Game 7 against Denver, and he disappeared again against the Golden State Warriors in this play-in tournament. So now they go forward and they wait. Will the NBA punish them for the scandal? Will the Clippers finally decide, hey, we need to try to rebuild this thing and go a different direction and move off of Kawhi Leonard and start fresh? Or are they going to run it back and do the same thing over and over again? And I will say this, you can't fool a crowd. You hear that crowd in the fourth quarter. Who are they cheering for in Inglewood, California? Are they cheering for the home team, the Clippers? Or is it thousands of people screaming, Warriors, Warriors, as Steph Curry hits a massive three-pointer to get the crowd to its feet on the road, no less. You want to talk about building franchises? We could say Golden State did it the right way, building through the draft, creating a dynasty, sticking with their coach, Steve Kerr, doing whatever they possibly can to put a winner around Steph Curry and Draymond Green, having those guys come through really when it matters. And with the Clippers, it's always been about shortcuts, short-sighted trades, not caring necessarily about the draft, trying to get Paul George and Kawhi Leonard when that didn't make a ton of sense, putting them together the way it played out. And I do think the basketball gods weighed in and said, all right, this is going to be Golden State's night.
Well, and I'd like to focus on that for just a second. There is nothing more magical than Steph Curry. In the history of the NBA, there is, as great as Michael Jordan was, and there is no doubt about his greatness, but in terms of the absolute magic of Steph Curry with what he is capable of doing, which has revolutionized the game of basketball, to see that version of him show up. And then alongside that, as you mentioned, Draymond Green, vintage Draymond Green, absolutely dominating and locking down Kawhi Leonard in the way that he did in their championship years. It was so marvelous to see that magic happen once again in the midst of the aging, the injuries, the issues that Golden State had with Jimmy Butler this year. And where I give Golden State a lot of credit, Ben, is it isn't like over the course of time that Golden State has not tried to remain relevant. They made the bold decision to bring Butler in. They have tried hard to stay competitive. They have stuck with Steve Kerr. They have stood by Draymond and, of course, Steph, the face of their franchise. But to see it resurrected again in that way against that woeful team, and by woeful, came down to the last seconds.
Right. And the franchise
magic, just like in the Olympics, again, some players are Harry Potter, they've got the one, and that's Steph Curry.
Oh, no question about it. And, in this modern era with the way the salary cap has been set up, the NBA doesn't actually want you to have a dynasty, right? I mean, a lot of the new rules they've put in place in terms of luxury taxes and all these kinds of things was to break up the Golden State Warriors because they were too good 10 years ago and the other owners wanted a chance. And so it's no longer reasonable to expect Golden State to compete for a championship every single year, given how old their main players are. It's no longer reasonable for any team, if they lose a player as expensive as Jimmy Butler, to expect to compete for a championship, right? But what I loved about the Golden State Warriors win this week, but also the 4 play-in tournament games that we saw all week long, was how much the teams that won really celebrated and cherished their victories, because there's been a long conversation going back for years. well, how much does the play-in tournament really matter? I mean, you win those games and you're probably going to go on and get smoked in the first round anyways. So, what trophy are you really getting? I mean, I saw Amazon was giving the guys chains of their highlights to wear in the post-game interviews. I don't know if they're going to be putting that chain up in their office bookshelf anytime soon. It's not exactly a Larry O'Brien trophy, right? But Steph Curry was so thrilled after 2 months of missing time with runner's knee to have that moment you're describing that did feel like a flashback to the Paris Olympics. You look at Denny Avdia. That guy was thrilled, elated to lead Portland into the playoffs for the first time in a long time. LaMelo Ball punched the Charlotte Hornets mascot because he was so excited. I don't know if you saw that in the celebrations, but it hits him in the mascot head. And then you look at Philadelphia with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, two pretty young guards. Those guys get over the top against Orlando, and they're thrilled about what they've done, right? And so I thought it was great optics for the NBA this week. Not only did you have very competitive games, but you had key players, whether they're rising stars or the ultimate, wise old veteran star in Steph Curry, sending the message to everyone out there that it's cool to compete and it's cool to care, even if it's a play-in tournament game versus Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And I just was tickled to death this week. After a pretty long regular season where there was a lot of just empty games that didn't really feel like they were very important, I thought all 4 of those games delivered, and Steph Curry was right at the top of the list.
Well, and Curry has always been a jubilant personality. He's always been a celebratory, to the point where some purists had a tough time with him because of the way he expressed himself. So I love the fact that he had the opportunity again to be that version of Steph Curry. I'm gonna run at this from a little bit of a different angle. I'm gonna call this the Wemby effect. That Wembanyama has made it cool to be emotional again. And I'm not saying that's why these players celebrated the way he did, but Wemby has made no bones about who he is and how he regards the game and how he approaches this life that he's chosen. And it's with a joyful, competitive, serious, a combination of serious-minded yet joyful. That's the best way I could put it. He's there to compete. He's there not to be buddy-buddy. He's there to win, but he's there to celebrate when he loses, and he's pissed off, or celebrate when he wins and pissed off when he loses. I love that. And to see 4 games like that this week, that really, I think you encapsulated that really well, Ben.
Well, basketball relies on the stars' personalities, right? I mean, more so than any other sport. It's not like baseball where you got 11 guys, right? It's not like football where they're wearing helmets. Hockey, they wear the helmets too. Maybe they start, throwing the stick and throwing the gear off when they have a great time. But with the NBA players, we see all of their emotions. And when we get to these high stakes games, and now we're starting it with the play-in tournament, even more so than just the playoffs, some of the most indelible memories we have of big star players is whether they're crying when they win a championship or they're crying when they lose a championship, right? It's that very honest outpouring of emotion. I remember Wemby crying on his mom's shoulder in Paris, because they came up just short in the gold medal game. Kevin Durant crying on his mom's shoulder, going back to the 2012 NBA Finals against LeBron. LeBron crying when he wins the 2016 Finals. Steph Curry just, elated every time Golden State got over the top. I mean, these are the moments that we live for as basketball fans. And let's be honest, a lot of these regular season games when it's 145 to 120 and it's a blowout, we're not seeing anybody shed tears, right? So that's what's great about this time of year, though. The intensity immediately flips the switch, right? I mean, with the exception of maybe Orlando, who, they're not on the same page. I mean, they were trying. They're just not on the same page. I thought every other team out there, including the teams that lost, whether it was the Clippers, the Suns, I mean, they all put up a fight. They were all out there trying to do it. And it's so refreshing after we've heard all this talk about tanking and the blowouts and all this stuff that, we're just seeing good, honest, clean basketball, very competitive with the emotional juices that gets everybody excited.
Well, one of the things about March Madness is, one shining moment, of course, but a big part of the feature always is the kids that are elated and the kids that are crying, because I mean, you see that full range of emotion in that one and done. And I thought this is the closest thing the NBA can come to duplicating that is the one and done, although a couple of the teams, continue on that, of course, but but there's still so much on the line in this one game. So I was a bit skeptical when they came up with this system, but I like it. I like that there's so much on the line. Now you get into the grind of a 7-game series. Yes, of course. But this one shining moment for these teams that overcame, in the case of Golden State, for instance, adversity, and no one thought they had a shot, to come out, do that, creates that kind of magic. And now we're set up for some first-round matches, some that lack much, I think, drama. At least we think so. You got to play the games, of course. But there's some that have some heavy drama to it as well, Ben. So maybe we're going to jump over there, and let's stay in your hometown. And the Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets, the anticipation of this Reeves and Luka and LeBron squaring off against Durant and the Rockets. But, both teams have injuries, but certainly Houston's injuries don't rival what the Lakers' injuries mean to this series. So here's my bottom line question. Does LA, with LeBron leading the way, have any shot at all against a Houston team? And this is where I'll inject my editorial commentary. I still don't believe in them. Now, maybe I should, but I still don't. And I'm not saying I think the Lakers can take them, but I don't look at them as a team that you would look at and go, man, they're just going to roll the Lakers, even without these two guys.
Well, so Houston's advocates would say, well, hey, look, they closed this regular season so strong. They had a big winning streak. I mean, they've got all the momentum rolling. And I would just point out, a lot of those wins came over teams that weren't very good. I mean, they just wound up having a softer part of the schedule towards the end, and they did take care of business. I think ultimately when you look at Houston and the guys they did have, how many games they got out of Kevin Durant, what their goals were coming into the season, you've got to look at it and say a 5 seed is a disappointment for this team, right? I mean, they should at least have home court advantage. Right. And the real bugaboo for them all season long is crunch time offense, late game offense. And what do we know about the playoffs? That's actually pretty important, to be able to be able
not
to
a little
score.
thing.
Yeah, in the last 5 minutes is a pretty big deal. Now, this Lakers team, you're looking at 60 points per game sometimes between Luka and Austin Reeves. I don't know how you make up for 60 points per game. And I also think it goes back to what we saw from LeBron maybe in some previous playoff matchups, where he will wear down if he has to have all the burden. And that was the genius stroke of bringing in Luka. LeBron was thriving in the number 3 role because he could kind of focus his energy in spots and spurts and just take over a game for a couple minutes. And now it's like, well, you have to carry the whole thing, and he's probably going to have to play 40 minutes a night. And I don't think that's a winning formula for the Lakers. So I will have the Rockets, but I'm going to take them in 6 games. I think if you just look at the talent and you look at LA's home court advantage, you would typically say, okay, they're going to be able to steal one in LA. Houston's going to take care of business. They're just deeper, more athletic, more physical, bigger. They've got Kevin Durant to kind of offset LeBron, and then the supporting cast will take care of it. So you would say Rockets in 5, but something tells me the Rockets are going to find a way to blow a game, because they always do. I mean, it's just been a recurring theme for them not being able to execute down the stretch. So I've got Rockets in 6. And I think for the Lakers, I mean, if that's how it plays out, you don't want to write the story before it's over. It's going to force some tough choices and ask some tough questions, right? Because you got to pay Austin Reeves. You got to figure out what to do with LeBron. A first-round exit's not good enough. The Dodgers guys just took over the Lakers, right? What do the Dodgers expect every year? World Series championship, right? That's the standard. And that's what Lakers fans expect too. And so first round and out, it's not good enough. And we'll see what the fallout would be if that's how it plays out. But you can also flip it around, Paul. You say, well, if you don't trust the Rockets, what happens for them if they lose this series, right? What happens for them if they come in as heavy favorites and blow it? Is it a coaching change? Do they have to trade Kevin Durant and then trade Şengün? I mean, do they just like completely alter their core group? You trade off some more young guys? They would face some real stakes here as well. So that to me is why this series is juicy. Like both these teams have a lot of stick in the game.
They do, and they're both wounded going in. They didn't have Van Fleet all year in Houston, and Freddie is he's what I would call he's an absolutely surprising difference maker for any team. He was with the Raptors when he came into his own in 2019 during their championship run, which, by the way, is where Kawhi Leonard really blew it. He, basically, he basically did what Kawhi, I think we've grown to expect from him, is do weird things for reasons we don't understand because he never tells you. Yeah. He's just such an odd duck. And man, oh man, if he had stayed in Toronto, who knows what that could have evolved into, because they had a good thing going.
He's a legend in the booth and a master on the mic.
Low Tide brings the banter weekdays from noon to 2. Sports 1440. It's where Edmonton talks sports. Get in the game. Text 833-401-1440.
What keeps Alberta business moving? It's pallets. Whether you're shipping, manufacturing, or looking for in-house storage solutions. Hi, it's Andrew with the Pallet Recycler here in Edmonton, and we've been providing reliable, affordable, recycled, and custom pallets for local businesses for the past 30 years. Contact the Pallet Recycler at 825-474-1981 to find out why recycled pallets are the most cost-effective way to move and store your product. Learn about our recycling program as well at thepalletrecycler.ca.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable, water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all 3 of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, tough different job.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Confidence in motion. Visit Subaru.ca. When it comes to sports in Edmonton, Jason Gregor is a must-listen. He brings you the inside scoop with guests from across North America. If it matters in sports, you'll hear it here first. Gregor rolls out weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
What will the Lakers do? And to me, still the most fascinating part of the offseason is, in my mind, they have to find a way to pay Austin. That's number one. You got to keep that guy. He's just blossomed into such a good player. He and Luka seem to really enjoy playing together. You don't want to break that duo up. But LeBron, my gosh, that is a tough one. Because if LeBron is Kobe, where he wants every dime, and he's earned the right to ask it, but he's not going to be Dirk. He's not going to be Stockton. He's not going to be one of those guys that says, you know what, I'm going to take a haircut to keep the team together. Got a shot at another one. It doesn't appear that what he will be willing to do. It's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out.
Well, I could make a strong case if I was his agent, Rich Paul. I could make a strong case to LeBron to say, hey, you're worth your weight in gold. There's no question about it. You're still the most famous player in the NBA. But taking a discount to stay with the Lakers would have its benefits. I mean, first of all, you don't have to move, right? You're comfortable in LA. You don't have to be the face of the team anymore. And that was a real burden that he carried for quite a while. And it's been easier on him this year, just kind of seeing how he does his interviews and all that kind of stuff. He's much more, on the background than he used to be. And that's got to be a plus. There's not going to be very many basketball situations that are better for him. There's places maybe where he could get bigger numbers, but he's going to have to go back to having that huge burden. And so I think if there's the possibility for him that if, the reality of his aging has set in, I mean, he missed the whole first month of the season with sciatica, and he was still on a team that could kind of withstand that and keep him in a position to play meaningful basketball down the stretch. There's some real benefits to the setup, right? So if I'm the Lakers, I'm saying we have to have a negotiation. We can't give you every dollar because that's not the best way for us to build our team. But could there be a way that they're able to compromise and find a number that works? I would hope so, because all things considered, it's been a pretty successful partnership. And I do think LeBron will have a hard time finding a team that has a chance to compete for a title, that's willing to give him huge money and is going to give him the quality of life that he expects and deserves, frankly, because of how good he's been for so long. So, I think there's still a chance. But, if I'm the Lakers, you got to make it a negotiation. It can't just be one of these automatic max deals and we're going forward. And your point on Reeves is dead on. People kind of take for granted how long he's been a Laker. This guy is turning into a franchise icon. I mean, he's not there yet, but he is so popular with the fans here in LA because he is a guy. He's the rare player they drafted and developed here recently, right? You know how much they love Kobe because they saw Kobe grow up, and they trade for Pau Gasol. They trade Andrew Bynum. They drafted him, but he kind of didn't work out. They trade for Dwight Howard. They go get Russell Westbrook. I mean, so many of these guys have been like the mercenary type guys they've brought in. They even, signed LeBron in free agency, but Austin's got the homegrown juice. And so that's why he's going to be a priority this summer. There's no doubt.
And his play merits it. Like the way he and Luka have figured out to play together when they were on that stretch, it was really fun to watch those two when they were both healthy and both hitting on all cylinders. It really a fun team. So I hope that does work out. Let's talk about a couple of other matchups. Let's go to the Eastern Conference. Raptors versus the Cavs. This is a bit intriguing to me. At the Cavs, I think they have too much talent, most likely for the Raptors to handle. But the Cavs, again, what they have in talent, they lack in physical play. Not that the Raptors are overly physical at all. They're kind of similar in that way, kind of long and skinny in a lot of respects. Raptors finished strongly, but I think the 2 wins against the Heat were somewhat impressive. Certainly, Scotty Barnes played really well the last month of the season. Ingram seems to be at the peak of his powers right now. Do you see the Raptors having a shot in a 7-game series against the Cavs?
I think so. The history of the Cavaliers and of Donovan Mitchell would say they're going to win their first-round series because they're favored and they do have the better talent, the more experience. And then they're going to get to the second round, and that's probably going to be all she wrote. I mean, that's sort of the history of the Cavaliers. Now, with from Toronto's side, the history would say, well, you got to go get your feet wet in the playoffs. This is kind of the first time with this group back in it.
Right.
And then in the future, you're going to expect bigger things, right? I do think Cleveland's vulnerable, though, and not only because their front line, like you said, is not overly physical, but the pieces just don't fit together that well.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's why they shook things up and then got James Harden, because they were like, well, Darius Garland's too small. And you playing with Mitchell, he's too small. You got Mobley, who can't really do anything with the basketball, so he doesn't really work as a 4, but he doesn't really play 5 all that much. Jared Allen is just completely derivative. Everything has to be set up for him, and he tends to be a shrinking violet when it comes to the playoff stage. And then their wing core is really not all that impressive, and that's really where guys like Scotty and the other, RJ, Brandon Ingram, those guys should really be able to win some matchups in that particular spot. I think Toronto's best lineups are just a little bit more versatile than Cleveland's. But can Cleveland kind of turn this into an ugly series where Mobley's defensive impact is winning out? Mitchell's the best player on the court. He's getting 30 a night, and that's how they win it. That's how I suspect it goes. But I think Toronto is capable of making Cleveland sweat, and it's fun to watch Cleveland sweat because remember last year when Indiana just blitzed them off the court? How much fun was that series? It was just like it was a track meet, and like Cleveland, the number 1 seed's looking around saying, what the heck just hit us, And
Absolutely.
So, Toronto, I don't know if they have that same firepower that Indiana did, but they've got some real talented players. And if Darko finds a way to put it together, they could win this series. It's possible.
It is possible. I'm curious to see how much, if at all, but how much Darko goes to Scotty on Donovan. That, I think, is the intriguing matchup to me, is that can Scotty's length and versatility and mobility bother Mitchell enough to take him out of the game? Because to me, the difference in this series most likely will be Donovan Mitchell's ability to get that 30 a night, because he's got Harden, who, for all of the criticism he gets in the playoffs, actually has some pretty good numbers in the playoffs, and he's still very, very good. But that to me is the most intriguing matchup in that series. So I'm curious, because the lack of physical strength of both teams really makes, I think, for an intriguing matchup. And will it be a track meet, or will it, like you say, will Cleveland try to go the opposite way and make this a slugfest in the half court? Yeah,
I mean, my last thought would be, Toronto gave Jakob Poeltl a lot of money last summer. I don't know if it made sense then. I don't know if it really made sense over the course of this series. But if you're going up against Jared Allen and Mobley, Cleveland is not going to go to like super small ball lineups like some teams do, right? And so there should be the opportunity for Poeltl to be out there playing big minutes, have some kind of an impact. This is the time to earn your money, and if Toronto goes quietly, there's going to be a lot of grumbling about, wait a minute, well, why did this guy cost as much as he did? So, this is a good opportunity for Poeltl to quiet some critics, or it's a good opportunity for the critics to get a little bit louder, right?
100%. Well, it'll be one or the other, that's for sure. I'm talking with Ben Golliver here on the Deep Dive on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Let's talk about the Blazers and the Spurs. Like Denny Avdia, what a marvelous season he had, and it really is interesting to see Portland without Damian Lillard at all for the entire season make the step and the stride that they made. They made a significant baby step this year. I certainly don't look for them to give the Spurs a series, like it'll be 4 or 5 in my not so humble opinion. But what do you see in the Blazers now that they're healthy again? What do you see in the Blazers that you think could give San Antonio some trouble?
Well, they have a number of elite defensive pieces, and so they have a very strong defensive identity. They have the size inside with Klingon as a kind of just a paint filling big. They also have a whole bunch of wing guards who can defend at a high level. So you're talking about Drew Holiday, right on down the list after him. And you got the wings with Tybal and so forth. So, and Denny himself is a good defensive piece. So they have a lot of good individual defenders at key spots, right? Like, I mean, Wemby is obviously going to try to pull Klingon out of the paint, right? But if you're looking at San Antonio's desire to score a lot around the rim, it's going to be harder because they have a piece there. And then, Holiday, if you're trying to match up with De'Aaron Fox, Holiday is still one of the very best options in that spot to just limit a small guard, to frustrate him, to press him at times, and just, try to make him less efficient. So I think positionally, Portland's got some good defensive matchups. Denny was phenomenal in the play-in game. I mean, completely outplayed Devin Booker. And it's like an all-star battle. And it was just, Denny had 41 and 7 or something like that. And it was not even really a question about who was the better player. He is very physical. He is skilled at drawing fouls. Wemby is skilled at avoiding defensive fouls. It helps to have like 9-foot-long wingspan, where you don't actually have to like Wemby never hits anybody on the wrist. I wonder why, Paul. I bet back in your playing day, you got some fouls trying to contest shots at the rim where you hit guys on the forearm, right? Well, somehow Wemby never has that problem, So that's going to be a key matchup is, can Portland get downhill offensively into the teeth of San Antonio's defense? Because nobody did it this year. It's really, really hard to do. San Antonio's got a top 3 defense. Wemby is the best defensive player right now in the league by far, maybe the best defensive player I've ever seen in terms of impact. And so a lot of the stuff that makes Denny go could be very hard for him to come by. It's going to put more stress on Portland's 3-point shooters. Portland's 3-point shooters are not good on the season, but they have been better since the All-Star break. And so for Portland to kind of steal 1 win or steal 2 wins in this series, it will come down to them exceeding expectations as like a drive and kick 3-point team, right? Beating San Antonio's defense with the pass. But just to take a real quick step back, this is a very exciting moment for the city of Portland. They have not had full arena capacity for playoff games since before the pandemic, obviously, because in 2021, that was the only other year they made it back to the playoffs over the last 5, and they only were allowed to have a certain number of fans in the building because of COVID restrictions. That building, I still call it the Rose Garden, but it's the Moda Center. That building gets wild during the playoffs, and that's been true basically my entire life. And now you're bringing, I would say, the biggest star in the NBA right now in terms of these playoffs, the guy who everybody wants to watch. Portland finds itself on center stage. They couldn't be more thrilled. If you're a Blazers fan, 5 years of misery pays off when Wemby comes to town for games 3 and 4. Even if you're down 2-0 when he shows up, you're going to be so excited to go to those games. So I'm just thrilled for all the basketball fans in the Rose City. They're going to get a treat.
For those that don't know, Ben has lived in the Rose City and has a great affection for his hometown. And it is exciting to see. Like Oklahoma City, I look at a market like Portland, and I'm excited for them. Minnesota, these small markets, Denver, these small market teams that have to go so far above and beyond, that don't have what LA and New York City have in terms of resources at their fingertips, and how hard they have to work to build this franchise. And I think Portland has done an admirable job in some respects. I know they've made all kinds of mistakes along the way, but they have stayed the course. And the best, if I can call it the best move, a move that I think we'll see how big the dividends are that it might pay, is bringing Drew Holiday in. Because you've got a guy who's won an NBA championship. I mean, to say he's high character is an understatement. So from a leadership standpoint, a toughness standpoint, a personality, a teammate standpoint, a community standpoint, you can't have a better beacon than Holiday, I don't think, on your team. And then to have a budding superstar like Denny, like that's really exciting for this city.
Well, yeah, especially if your coach gets arrested by the FBI, it might be helpful to have a Drew Holiday.
Oh yeah, that thing.
You know, it's pretty. Guys like him, they're usually worth their weight in gold, right? As mentors for young teammates, especially when you have guys like Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe, and they're really young players who haven't really fulfilled expectations yet. So it's nice to have a good, smart, just glue guy type in the locker room. But when your coach gets, sidelined early in the season, you're bringing in Tiago Splitter, who's never coached at the NBA level before as a head coach. Drew Holiday earned his paycheck this year, no question about it. And he's still playing at a pretty high level. And Portland has had some misadventures with their moves. I mean, at the same time, trading Damian Lillard to Milwaukee, that worked out great for them. Trading for Drew Holiday, it worked out pretty well for them. And trading for Denny was an absolute steal for them. I mean, they got an all-star level player who's on a very affordable contract, who's progressing through his prime, and looks like he's going to be I don't know if you call him a franchise player, but he's going to be a stalwart type guy for years to come. And he's just about all the right things. Put your head down, get to the rim. He reminds me actually of a young Jimmy Butler in terms of how relentless he is off the dribble. And, he even showed a little shake and bake there against Phoenix late in that game. Man, that was a nice series of moves to get himself to the rim for the game winner, right? Or the game sealing shot, I should say. So, Portland fan base is feeling good. Obviously, still more work to do. And it is a tricky spot here because they're in a transition with ownership. And so I do think that making the playoffs is a nice thing that you could say for everybody there who's worried, is the new owner going to come in and clean house and change direction and try to do things his way? Everybody can look back and say, hey, we made the playoffs. That's not easy to do, right? Especially because you have to fight it through the play-in tournament and you're battling a lot of injuries along the way. And so hopefully that allows the owner to kind of start this new chapter on a good note, right?
I would look at the acquisition of Denny similar, kind of like I would put Gilgeous-Alexander from the Clippers as the pinnacle, but I would put this is right below that. To get him for what they gave up is just huge. And to have him evolve into the player that he is, shame on Washington. Yeah. Their ineptitude. I was going through some of the franchises and, one of the clunk along, I called it the clunk along franchises, and that's certainly Washington. I even throw a couple of other teams into that. But I think with the Blazers, it's great to see. Let's talk about, Ben, the series. I think of all of the series that probably before the series start has the most intrigue about it, and that is the Timberwolves and the Nuggets.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Of course.
You love both sides of it,
I do. I mean, they're two of my favorite teams, and I love both, and I love playing out both sides of it. But I think, would you agree, it's the most interesting matchup? Because I think I think when the Wolves come in kind of stumbling in a bit with Ant's knee being very suspect, the Nuggets come in 12-game winning streak, really found they're healthier. They're not completely healthy yet because Watson's still up in the air, and that's a big piece to be missing. They're playing against their nemesis, who has been very, very tough on them the last few years. The Wolves they're beasts. They're physical. But then you've got Denver, Murray, a career year. And of course, you've got Jokic. And by the way, I thought about all of our conversations and I've read all of the different things about MVP. Jokic is my MVP of the year over SGA.
Wow.
I came to my conclusion. I said, no, Jokic is it. That's another conversation. We'll focus on this. If you want to challenge me, because that's an easy one to challenge, I'm open to it. I can defend myself and my choice.
I love it. I was going back and forth and wound up with Jokic second and Wemby third, but a lot of people were mad at me saying Wemby needed to be at least second, right. Jokic needed to be third. And what's so fun about the debate, it's like rock, paper, scissors. So Wemby and the Spurs, they dominate the Thunder. Well, Shea and the Thunder, they dominated the Nuggets. Well, Joker and the Nuggets dominated the Spurs. So how are you supposed to find the right answer? It just goes in circles, right?
It does.
It was a great MVP race this year. Joker had a phenomenal season despite the midseason injury, and he really closed hard. I mean, Denver has maybe more positive momentum than any team going into the playoffs. And I think that starting the playoffs at home, usually that's great, right? Like if you're still feeling good, everyone's good. Aaron Gordon's healthy. Jamal Murray's healthy, had a great season. Joker is Joker. You get up 2-0 in that series, you're feeling great, right? And so you're super happy to have home court advantage. It's a tall task for Minnesota, in part because Anthony Edwards has really missed some time. There's been a lot of chatter about him in terms of really where is his knee at. And it sounds like there's some genuine concern. I mean, I'm not like long-term, it's going to be crazy, but just like trying to manage it right now, where he's going to have to play huge minutes and have a big burden and play a lot of high-level games in a short period of time. Minnesota has no chance unless Anthony Edwards is an A-type player, right? Because, one of their best playoff guys last year was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and he's going to do it for Atlanta now, right? So, for Minnesota, they're glad to have the size and physicality to throw at Joker. They're glad to have the familiarity. I saw Julius Randle say he was going to consult with God to figure out how to guard your MVP, which was a great, I think a great line. Also great advice for everybody, right? You probably do need to consult with God to try to slow him down. But let's not forget there's bad blood here too. I mean, this is pretty close to one of the best rivalries we've got in the NBA. On Christmas, they got into it. It was very feisty. And the last couple of playoffs where, Denver choked it in Game 7, they have not forgotten that. I mean, that was a really tough loss to take. And I was there, and Anthony Edwards was really, I don't want to say rubbing it in their face, but he was really savoring it. Let's put it that way.
He was pouring salt on the wound. He was. No had question. The shaker out.
So if we start to see some, some shoving matches in Game 1 before we get to halftime, wouldn't surprise me at all. I think it has a chance to be a very, very high-level basketball series and also a very intense basketball series. And we know what happens if people push Joker's buttons. He's not afraid to push back. So that's a great reason to watch.
It's 36 hours of amazing store-wide savings, and it's on now. Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's 36-hour sale. It's the perfect time to redecorate with a huge selection of beautifully crafted Lazy Boy furniture, and it's all on sale. Don't miss out on 36 hours of incredible savings at both Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's locations, South Edmonton Common and in the West End on 170th Street. It's the most amazing 36 hours.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru, a world-class leader in environmental performance. Visit Subaru.ca.
Own and run a small business? Innovative Benefits provides private health service plan setup, as well as administration services for businesses like yours. But the best part is, Innovative Benefits offers benefit plans that cost less than the industry average, 20 to 40% less. And they provide 100% coverage with no insurance company rules, administration, or interference. So if you have medical, dental, or healthcare expenses, their plans will always increase your cash flow. Visit innovativebenefits.ca for more.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
They're pumped for the playoffs at Selly's Sports Bar and Lounge, the place to catch every hit, every goal, every Selly. Not a bad seat in the house, tons of big screens, and a menu with something for everyone from small bites to big bites. Plus, game night food and drink features and Oilers playoff watch parties. Selly's Sports Bar and Lounge at all 3 Century Casino locations, Edmonton, St. Albert, and Century Mile.
Every day is game day at Century Casino.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back, Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick in the studio right now. Hope you enjoyed the conversation on the deep dive with Ben Golliver. You can listen to the entirety of the conversation after Josh posts our podcasts. After our show is over, you can listen to us anytime on your favorite podcast provider, including on YouTube. And so listen to the entire interview. It's worth your time. Ben Golliver is as good as it gets in terms of NBA analysis. And also check out his writing on Substack and listen to his podcast as well, because they do a great job and they have a global following that really, really kind of hangs on every word. So you really get it from the best when we talk with Ben here on the show. Right now, of course, the Raptors are on. They're behind by, I believe it is 3. There's a commercial right now, but they're putting up a good fight in the early stages against the Cavaliers. And, you know, I've gone out on a limb and said, I think this is one of the first round playoff series that I think has the greatest chance of an upset with the lower seed winning in the Raptors. Josh disrespectfully disagrees with me, calls the Cavs in 5. So he looks at it as a blowout. So we will see where that goes. But check it out. And then, of course, at 1:30, get on your TVs and watch the first game of the Minnesota Timberwolves as they journey into the Mile High City and face off against the Jokic-led Denver Nuggets. A couple of final questions I have for you, Josh, regarding the NBA that are kind of a little more nuanced is, first of all, which teams do you think have the most to win or lose in this in the playoffs? Now, I'm not going to say the first round. I'm just going to talk about the playoffs in general. If you had to pick one team, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which team has the most to lose in the playoffs this year?
That's a great question. I think it's probably the Knicks.
I would agree.
They're not really playing with anything. The Thunder, they already won. You know, flags fly forever. They're gonna be good. Lakers, they're injured. LeBron's old. Nothing to hold against them. I think the only other contender is probably the Nuggets. Like the Spurs are playing with house money. The Celtics, no one thought they were going to be as good as they were. Same with the Pistons and Magic and Hawks. And everybody on the lower sides. The Timberwolves had a tough season. I think it's clearly the Knicks.
I think it's the Knicks as well. The only other team I'd put in there, but definitely below the Knicks. Well, actually, 2 other teams, the Cavaliers, because they, brought in James Harden. They're trying to win now, especially after their disappointment last year. So I think the Cavs have a lot of pressure on them, and also the Houston Rockets. And the Rockets, They didn't have a true point guard, and they didn't address it well before the trade deadline either. And that I think is on the front office. But without Freddie VanVleet this year, that really hurt them. And then with Steven Adams going down, Adams was such an impactful player early in the season for them with unbelievable offensive rebounding stats. So I think those are honorable mentions, but definitely the Knicks. They've spent the money. They've made the coaching changes you talked about eloquently earlier in our program, Josh, that they've made the changes they feel they had to make. Nothing short of getting to the NBA Finals is going to be considered a success for the Knicks. And then it will be interesting to see if they move on from Karl Anthony Towns. Do they do the revolving door with Mike Brown as the head coach? All of those are distinct possibilities as they are under the glaring microscope that is Madison Square Garden and the New York City sports culture that expects nothing less than championships every year and are the most vicious when they don't get their way. Which players then, in your opinion, Josh, name a player or two that you think stand out in your mind that have the spotlight on them the brightest as we go into, and let's take the Knicks out of it. We've talked about Jalen Brunson. We've talked about Karl Anthony Towns. What other players do you think have an awful lot on the line in this playoff, in these playoffs?
I think one of them we're watching right now, and I think that's James Harden.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's failed to get over the hump, particularly as a number one guy. We know his numbers in win or go home games. They are not good. Is scared to take a shot, sort of scared to be the guy that comes up short and fails, so he doesn't really try and just leaves it to everybody else. So I think he has a lot to lose, or a lot riding on the line this year. Is can he finally get it done? And I think the other one in a different way is Victor Wembanyama.
That's who I was going to go to.
He's young. He's making a case as like a top 3 player in the league all of this year. He's so good defensively, and the question is he ready for the moment? I watched the Olympics. I'm pretty sure he's ready for the moment. He was, the 3rd best player on the court against Team USA. But to me, I think Victor Wembanyama just in, he did it in the regular season. Can he do it in the playoffs? I think that's what is riding on that for him.
Well, Ben pointed out, like, during the year, there was a minutes restriction on Wemby, trying to keep his minutes around 30 a game. Now, when you get to the playoffs, of course, players have to play heavier minutes. Can he do that physically? Like, my own opinion is that it is definitely Wemby for the reasons you described. But also, I look at whatever the outcome of this, as long as Wemby doesn't get hurt, is going to be positive, not just for him, but for the San Antonio Spurs, because the Thunder broke the pattern of young teams being ready to meet the challenge of the moment in the playoffs by winning the championship last year. So I know that San Antonio feels that they have the ability, especially with their record against the Thunder during the regular season. Now, whether that's a false positive or not, because when the Spurs dominated the Thunder earlier in the season, I think that was when the Thunder weren't at full strength. Now they are, or real close to it. So it's going to be, I look at whatever happens with the Spurs as being positive, like I said, as long as Wemby doesn't get hurt, because this will be invaluable, because they're even younger than the Thunder were last year. They have a lot to not just prove, but also to learn. So they had a marvelous regular season. The franchise has turned around. We talk about Wemby, obviously the defensive player of the year, probably a generational defensive player. And if it continues, will be one of, if not the best defensive player ever to play in the NBA. But Wemby has an awful lot of pressure on him, both self-imposed and also by the, I think, viewing public, because the NBA is going to be wanting Wemby and the Spurs to be playing against OKC in the conference finals this year. As much as everybody loves the Joker, they want Wemby to be in there as much as is possible. A couple of one final question. We have some venerated players who are getting towards the end of their careers, still playing effectively. I think you can make the case for that. That have off-season decisions that have to be made by them and by the teams that they play for. If you had to make a prediction, let's make this a black and white question. Yes or no? Will LeBron be in the purple and gold for the LA Lakers next year, Josh?
I don't think so. I think he goes to his hometown, Cleveland, Ohio, for a retirement tour and rides off into the sunset.
And I think he'll stay in LA. I think he's going to stay there. His life's comfortable there. And can you imagine at this stage of your career going from LA to Cleveland? No disrespect to Cleveland, other than it's a very different climate and a very different city. But you could be right, because LeBron has proven in the past that in spite of all of the criticism that he's received, he did bring a championship to the Cavaliers, and he has remained intensely loyal to his Ohio roots. So that could happen. What about Kevin Durant? I think that, we talked, I touched on that Houston has a lot to prove as well. And based on how they do, like if they were to lose to the Lakers, they would blow everything up. I mean, it would be like what we would hope would happen to the old Rexall place here that hasn't happened yet, but I think the dynamite would come out in Houston. But do you think Kevin Durant will be a Rocket next year?
Oh, that's a great question. Does he force his way out? I mean, he's still on the books for 2 more years after this. I think he might want out, but I think the question is, does anybody else want to take on the Kevin Durant contract with everything that comes with it in trading for a number 1 guy? Maybe the Wizards, they trade for so many people.
The Wizards are capable of anything anything at all. So I would say I think Durant's going to stay there. I think he stays with the Rockets.
I think he's there.
And I think things will look better next year. A, if Adams is healthier. B, if they can shore up their post play to build around Sengun a little bit more. And then the health of Freddie VanVleet. If VanVleet comes back, that helps address their point guard issues. I still think they need to add another backup point guard and move Reed out to the 2 guard, where even though he's undersized, that's where his natural position is. So we'll see. And then finally, Steph Curry finishes his career in Golden State. What do you think, Josh?
Oh, yeah. He's a lifer.
I hope so.
No doubt.
I hope they can renegotiate that and get that done. WNBA draft took place. The season's right around the corner. Everybody enjoy the NBA playoffs because they're going to be marvelous. This is my son, Ben, singing. Ben will have passed away 3 years ago on April 22nd. And every week at this time, I try to make a special point in his memory and in his honor to encourage everybody to make sure that you value the people that you love the most in your life, and make sure you tell them that you love them and show them that you love them through their actions, as well as treating your fellow man with love and respect as well. We don't know what people are walking, what's going on in their lives unless we walk in their shoes. So always look to be kind and think the best of others. Josh, thank you so much for today.
Hey, you know what, Paul? I'm always happy to be here. Always happy to talk ball with you for the 2 hours a day.
It's been fantastic. Enjoy the Raptors for the rest of this morning and the Wolves this afternoon and all the NBA playoffs. In the meanwhile, have a great week on and off the court. Thanks for spending your time with us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. I'm your sports leader, Sports 1440. And we'll see you next week.
Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's 36-hour sale is the perfect time to save on a huge selection